Greetings, everybody. This is Tony K with UGSM, Utopian Game Sales and Media. Living the dream as always. And today we are going to do a full-on video, customary to every new physical set that comes out, talking about what we have, some of my opinions, things like that. Really excited about Dominaria United and talking about the set with you guys here today. I have some notes. I think it's going to be a fun talk. As always, I'm just going to screen record what I'm looking at so you guys can see exactly in real time. Whenever you watch it, there's not going to be a lot of that extra fancy production stuff that, you know, other people spend their time on. Nope, I'm just going to spend my time pumping out content. With that being said, guys, remember, just friendly reminder, these are just my opinions. No logical person would go solely based off of what I say when it comes to Magic Finance. And also, you know, thank you guys so much for spending your time, taking time out of your day and watching these videos. It means a lot. Thank you. Just wanted to spread my thanks to you. So we are about 11 days away from Dominaria United releasing. Over the next week and a half, 2 weeks, you're going to see a lot of people who are getting the pre-release kits or even the collector boosters that arrive early. You're going to see them opening them. If you want a little bit of a conspiracy, you could say, hey, these guys are going to be pulling some heat. Watch how that goes as time goes on. As more boxes enter the market and are opened, you'll see that maybe the heat level reduces. Wouldn't be surprised if a big name card or two from that Legends set that they found gets opened up here over the first week. Just throwing that out there, whatever. We're going to start with the main set today, and we'll go over to the Commander set to wrap up our video. Excuse me. And overall, I'm going to be honest, Dominaria United is pretty good. Few different reasons that I'm going to say that, and the first thing is the iconic characters, the storyline, and the lore callback that they're doing here. I really enjoy it. That's a nice little bit of nostalgia, and I think for older Magic players, they're going to appreciate being able to play with some of these cards that have character names with new abilities, things like that. I think newer Magic players are going to find a new line of what this game has to offer. And I think that's pretty cool. That's exciting. Watch out if you're in the market for those old novels that they used to release way back in the day. It might be the time to start swooping them up, because I think that interest between this set and the Brothers' War is only going to increase on those. Speaking of callbacks, last few sets, really I think they've been doing it for a long time. They continue little subtle hints of the Phyrexians, whether it's through flavor text, through cards, whatever it is that they do, they continue to remind us that the Phyrexians are out there. I kind of like the way that they're taking the next step in building on these now, because remember, after the beginning of the new year, we do have a Phyrexian-based set, or focused set, that'll be coming out. I think it's gonna be interesting between this set and Brothers' War to see how they continue that trend, but we have a good amount of Phyrexian-related cards. Obviously, the most notable is a Johnny Sleeper Agent, and I'm curious to see how they build up to that. So, in terms of cards specifically, listen, I understand there are some heavy hitters on the top end here. Obviously, we'll talk about Liliana in a bit, but the top end of this set is heavy, and you know, you can say what you want, but the pre-release pricing, I think, is a little bit of an issue, and I'll talk about that in a bit as well. But even past just this top-heavy stuff, there's a lot of solid cards for draft, even Pauper, things like that, where, you know, they did a pretty good job of designing the entire set, I guess is where I'm going with that. I absolutely love, so we're going to scroll all the way down I absolutely love the alternative art for this set. Stained glass. I thought was done really well. I guess I could have just clicked at the top, but you know, what fun is that? There we go. So you see the stained glass mountain, island, forest, plains, swamp. Love those. And then they gave us a bunch of these. They're going to call them showcase, but I'm going to call them stained glass. I really enjoy these. I think Windgrace is one of my favorite ones. Yeah, I mean, the alternative art idea has been a little bit beaten into the ground, but there are some times where they do it well, and that's what we've got here. So I thought that was kind of cool. I'm sure you guys saw we have these enter the battlefield tapped dual lands in the common slot. I like this. We got the snow lands, so now in theory you're getting another set of lands that you can fetch for in your deck with those fetch lands. Which depends upon when you set them off. Just thinking about it from an EDH perspective, when you set it off later in the game or at the end of your opponent's turn before it's yours, it may not matter if it enters tapped or not. So just something to think about there. I've already seen some people talking about they can't get the old school original dual land, so this is kind of a good supplement in the meantime. That's fair. I like the optimism. And one of the cards we're going to talk about actually allows it to enter untapped, so we'll talk about that. Excuse me. You know your boy just had his vitamins, so still coughing it out. I love the fact that they've reprinted Liliana of the Veil. Surprising and gutsy move. Infusing this card into some new formats by reprinting in a standard legal set. I thought that was gutsy, and I personally love it. I think that they should try and do something like this where one card a set gets a reprint slot like that. A big reprint in a standard legal set. I think the players would appreciate it, and it wouldn't be hard to find the flavor. I talked about it briefly a moment ago. This set is a great example of what kind of swings happen when you look at pre-release pricing. There was a handful of cards that just absolutely went from high-end to low-end on the pricing scale within just a few days. I'm going to bring up two of the more egregious examples here, but I do want to scroll up and kind of look at the price of some of these cards, and you can see where we're at, where they're at right now. And let's look at the two I pulled. So first we have Archangel of Wrath, and you look at it, basically for 4, you can get a 3/4 flying lifelink. If you pay the kicker of a red or a black, you can add on 2 damage to any target once for each color. So for a total of 6, you could swing life totals 4, but it's at $3 right now. When it debuted, it was at $25. Look at this graph, and I understand, yes, pre-releasing, but this is just an example of you have to wait until, I normally like to wait until about the first week a set is out to really get a feel for what the price is going to be starting out. Because, again, players haven't really played with this. They haven't, like, they've seen it and they have an idea. But I think there's a huge difference between having the idea of that's going to be a fun card to play versus getting the feeling of it in your hand, playing it within your deck, the synergy that it can offer. The other one, this is a little bit worse of an example between the two, because Evolved Sleeper was one of the cards we originally got teased way back when. But even if you come up to August 14th when spoilers started, you're looking at this card being about $12, $13. So, you know, pre-release pricing, this set's a really good example of why I think pre-release pricing and paying attention to it is a little problematic. More often than not, the card price is gonna go down a bit, especially when the packs are starting to get opened. And then there's cards like, you know, Vesuvian Diplomacy, where it's just kind of flatlined between $15 and $13. I had that note written down. So just keep that in mind. Even Lily, but that's a reprint. she's held her value pretty consistent. So just pay attention, and you know, when you look at a card, if it doesn't jump off the screen at you right away, like those two that I chose, they're not bad cards, but those are not two cards that you're going to look back on this set and be like, oh my gosh, look at all these. Like, I understand as more cards come out, prices adjust and whatnot, but just keep that in mind. I've never purchased anything on a pre-release for singles. I've bought a couple of boxes sealed at pre-release just to make sure I got my hands on it, but I don't really do the singles at a pre-release price. I like that they brought the ping lands back for this set as well. Good mana in both the rare and the common slot. And then the Phyrexian creature cycle, the Defilers. Let's be honest, guys. These are going to see a lot of EDH play. I think these are going to be instant EDH bangers. And look at the prices on these. I mean, you could, at pre-release, I think you're going to be able to walk in and likely get one of each of these for under 25 bucks. I don't think these prices are going to go up any higher before pre-release. I'm pretty sure you will be able to walk into your LGS and say, I want one of each of the Defilers, and boom. They do some cool stuff. They all give you the ability to do the Phyrexian mana trick. I personally think Defiler of Faith, there's already people showing broken combos with it. I think that's something you got to be cautious of. Obviously, Defiler of Vigor is going to be very interesting. Green doesn't need much help paying a bunch of life or mana to do stuff, so it's going to be interesting. And I do think that Defiler of Dreams, listen, a 4/3 flyer, I would have liked to have seen a 4/4 or even a 3/4, give it a little extra toughness. But when you cast a blue permanent spell, draw a card, I can get behind that. So, just wanted to point that out. I think these are going to be big in EDH. They may not necessarily be big in the term of like cash value, but I think they're going to see a lot of play. And printing them in a standard set, in the rare slot, I think it's just a very cool time for Magic the Gathering players that are looking to abuse some cards, right? So, next note, we got a cycle of lords. 2-drop lords that do stuff for other creatures. There's the elf. I believe we got a goblin right there. The cleric one's pretty serious. I think the cleric and the goblin one are pretty serious. And then I believe the merfolk and a soldier one. So I'm kind of making a prediction here. These creature types didn't get a ton of support in this set. But they printed, like, we don't have a ton of goblins. This isn't going to see a lot of standard play, in my opinion. Could be wrong. They didn't print a lot of functionable goblins that you would play, like, standard with. So, my opinion is the next few sets, all these creature types that we got these 2-drop lords, they're suspect to be pumped and pushed heavy. They can't continue to do the dragon and angel thing forever. They've done a ton of it. I think this is their chance to bring back several of the popular tribes. And they all have unique abilities on these cards. The reason I bring this up, if you are looking for some of those older cards that interact with these tribes, or tribe-based cards, they're in these colors, for your EDH deck, for example, time is now to get them. And if you are someone that likes to spec on cards, I wouldn't be against the idea of getting some of those higher end cards that maybe have calmed down in price over the years. Because I think they're going to push these lords, or they're going to push those creature types. So with that being said, that's the main set. Overall, like I said, pretty excited about it. Alright, so let's turn our focus over to the commander side of this wonderful release. We have 2 commander decks. First one's called Legends Legacy. It is helmed by Jihada, Binder of Wills. That is a Mardu color. We'll talk about these commanders individually in just a moment. The other one is called Painbow. I love the name. And it's Gerard Carthalion, 5-color commander, Planeswalker. Let's talk about these commanders, and then I have a handful of original release cards to the set that we'll talk about and give a final overall on everything. With Jihad here, Jared, whatever, 5-color commander, comes in with 5 loyalty. His +1 is he can put in a 3/3 Kavu creature token with trample, has all colors, it's -3. It's choose up to 2 target creatures. For each of them, put a number of +1/+1 counters on them equal to the number of their colors. And then it's -6, so a turn after you get it out, in theory, if you wanted to, return target multicolored card from your graveyard to your hand. If that card was all colors, draw a card and create 2 treasure tokens. This card can be your commander. So let's just be honest. It is tough to make a 5-color commander that is going to reward you for cards that are going to have 5 colors in them. That's the first thing. Second thing is to make it the commander itself. 5-color Planeswalker as a commander itself is interesting. And again, I think it has to be really tough. This card is kind of underwhelming for me. And I'm sure someone in the comments or someone at home who's a better brewer than I am will say, oh, this is why this is such a great card. Maybe it is. For me, this doesn't really fit my play style or what I am good at doing in Magic, I guess. And I'll be honest, I don't care for his ultimate. He was on the. You take the first 2 abilities with the mana cost and the loyalty counters he enters with, and it was right on the fence. I'm like, this could either be a hit or a miss for me still, because what's the payoff? And even with it being, the turn after you bring him out, you can pump him up and get there. It's just not for me. That's just not for me. And I think that drawing a card and creating 2 treasure tokens is a little underwhelming. Because if best case scenarios, you're doing this the second turn he's out, and unless you have Proliferate or something that gets you more than 1 counter, he's dead. So for 5 mana, you're getting a 3/3 Kavu. You're returning a card to your hand, and let's say it has 3 colors, or 4 colors, you're not getting the draw card or the 2 treasure tokens. Like, it has to be a 5-color. So I think they should have maybe done it at like 3. Or for every color beyond 3, draw 1 card and create a treasure token. Something like that. I don't know. Let's look at the other commander. And this is Jihada, Binder of Wills. She is Mardu colored, 4 total. And she also enters with 5 loyalty. She can be your commander, and her +2 is up to 1 target legendary creature gains vigilance, lifelink, and indestructible until your next turn. Look at and be careful to understand. It doesn't say that you control, so you can do some political stuff with this. Reveal the top 4 cards of your library. It's -3, I'm sorry. -3 is the reveal top 4 cards of your let's wrap this up here. Talk about overall take on Dominaria United. Positive, really positive. Couldn't really find any major concerns or specific complaints about the set. And I think for a standard release set, it's going to go over really well with the player base, both old and new. A lot of different formats are going to be impacted by this in a good way. I think the lore is done really well. Flavor is good. Brought everything together. Nice package. So what I thought I would do is 3 biggest positives and 3 biggest negatives that I could come up with for this set. My biggest positives. First, and these are in no order, just 3 of them. The set introduces a lot of legends in terms of the characters and cards that will do well in the EDH format. But additionally, like I said, a little bit for every format. Pretty exciting. There's no continuity gaps between the story and the physical cards. Past few sets, there's been some issues there. I haven't kept up with the lore of the newer sets. I'm still working through some of the older books and the new comics that have been coming out. And one of the common themes that I heard was, especially with New Capenna, wasn't really consistent. And then the art, just in general, the alternative art, the stained glass art, even cards like the Raven Man, I love the art on that. I really felt like there were some cards in this set that if they needed a dark theme, they delivered. So that was my 3 positives. 3 biggest negatives. In terms of the power creep scale, I think this is moving in the wrong direction. A lot of powerful cards. And we see this in Magic. It's like a roller coaster. There's a slow build up and then a sudden drop where there will be a set that will underwhelm a set or 2, and then the following sets after that will be great, build us back up, things like that. So I definitely felt like on a power creep scale, not the direction we want to move, but the set overall is good, so I'm not complaining. I talked a little bit about it earlier. Pre-release pricing on the singles in this set was absurd. I saw a lot of people talking about how between all of these things and the Legends cards that are being put in the collector's boosters, like the physical Legends set cards, pricing was a little weird on this set for me. And I think even as we get closer to release, some of these cards are going to drop, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see cards like even Karn here on the screen. Wouldn't be surprised if he's at a 10. Same with Joda. I think some of these cards are going to go down just a little bit more before release, and then they'll continue downward for a bit after release. Like I said earlier, I like the first couple of weeks. First week is really the first week after the release is a good time to see where the price is going to be for a little bit. On most cards, there are outliers. This isn't a foolproof system, but there's very few cards in this set that I would look at and say you're going to likely need to get it right at release. I think all these cards have room to go down. Just my opinion. And then finally, I just mentioned it, the whole thing about the found, air quotes around found, Legends set boxes being opened and then redistributed into the collector booster packs and all this. I didn't care for it. And I'm sure there will be more sets like this in the future that have this happening. But I didn't care for it. I really didn't. I was worried because they did it so early that I thought, what if it overshadows what might be a good set? Dominaria's, the first Dominaria set was really good. I enjoyed it. This one seems like it's going to be the same. So I was a little worried about that, but I'm glad that it didn't overshadow. My one tweak I would have made is that they announced it at the end, not at the beginning. That being said, let's wrap this up. Final score on the set before I have a chance to open any cards, before I have a chance to play any of the cards, 3.5 out of 5. Very solid set, and I'm likely, after doing a draft or 2 on Arena, after opening a few packs, I'll likely say it's a 4. Trying not to do like 0.75, 0.8, things like that. Trying to just keep it half and whole numbers. So I think 3.5 to 4 is about where I'm scoring this. Um, Very excited to see how the newer Magic players interact with some of the callbacks here. Very curious to see how some of the older Magic players handle the newer versions of these cards. Um, and I'm really curious to see how it feels like this is a set that I couldn't tell you the exact set last time this happened, but when they did the Ravnica War of the Spark storyline, feels like this might be, a set that's getting us prepared for another kind of similar arc. Remember, we have Brothers War, the Phyrexia stuff is going to be coming up. I think that there's a possibility that we could have some really cool lore-related things, not just the new characters, but again, callbacks to these older characters. Um, and listen, not every set and not every book in the game is great, but it really feels cool that we have a strong story to go alongside of it. Other than that, guys, that wraps it up. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next time.